I accidentally saved the kidnapped wealthy heiress, Lin Muin, to repay the favor. The old madam of the Lin family gave me two choices. Either marry her most beloved youngest granddaughter, Lin Muin, or take a small goal of 100 million. I decisively chose the small goal and immediately booked the earliest flight out of the country. I just wanted to escape this place quickly, to escape this wealthy socialite Lin Muin, whom I had saved, simply because I had been reborn, in my past life. After saving the kidnapped wealthy heiress Lin Muin, I worked 5 jobs a day, exhausting all my blood and sweat to raise her into a delicate little princess. But after she was brought back to her family, she ordered that no one was allowed to mention those unbearable memories. Seeing that I had done a great favor for the Lin family, old Madam Lin asked me what I wanted. I foolishly said I wanted to take Muin as my wife, that I wanted to take care of her for the rest of my life. But I didn't know that from the day she returned to the Lin family, Lin Muin had fallen in love with the elite circle's prince, Ji Beong. After we married, she was extremely cold to me. Even every time she held my hand, she would immediately go to the washroom to scrub it clean. Later, she got pregnant. In order to prevent her first love from being labeled a homewrecker and to be with him justifiably, she personally pushed me off a cliff. Before I died, she walked up to the pool of blood in her high heels and sneered, "Gucci, a poor wretch like you who reeks of poverty from head to toe. You think you deserve to be Lin Muin's husband. My first choice will always be a Yang. Anyone else can only be a backup." When I opened my eyes, I had returned to the day old Madam Lin asked me how I wanted to be repaid. This time, I put away my delusional infatuation. Without even looking at Lin Muin, I said, "I want a sum of cash plus a ticket to the United States." "A sum of money? Gucci, are you playing hard to get with me?" Lin Muin's sharp voice pierced the luxurious tranquility of the Lin family villa. She sat on the European-style leather sofa, arms crossed. Those eyes that were once entirely filled with me now held nothing but undisguised contempt and mockery. She had just been brought back to the Lin family for less than 3 days. The cheap cotton dress I had scrimped and saved to buy her had long been replaced by a haute couture Chanel suit. The dazzling diamond necklace around her neck seemed to silently draw the class divide between us. Old Madam Lin sat in the seat of honor, thumbing a string of small red sandalwood prayer beads in her hand. Her cloudy yet shrewd eyes looked me up and down as if evaluating the residual value of a defective product. Mr.Gu. Muin has a straightforward temperament. Please don't mind her. A man in a white subtly patterned suit walked out from behind Lin Muin. He was Ji Beong, the famously wealthy playboy of the elite circle. He naturally sat down next to Lin Muin and grasped her hand. Not only did Lin Muin not pull away, but she actually blushed slightly and leaned her body toward him. Ji Beong looked at me, a seemingly gentle but actually malicious smirk hooking the corner of his mouth. Mr.Gu saved Muin, so it's only human nature to want some compensation. I just don't know exactly how big Mr. Gu's appetite is for this sum of money. He deliberately emphasized the word, appetite, his eyes full of condescending charity and disdain. I calmly looked at the 3 people in front of me. The feeling of weightlessness from falling off the cliff in my previous life and the severe pain of a shattered body seemed to still linger in my bones and blood. Lin Muin's words at the top of the cliff, "How does a despicable poor man like you deserve to be my husband?" still echoed deafeningly in my ears. I pulled back my thoughts, my gaze bypassing Ji Beong to look directly at old Madam Lin. "I want 10 million. My voice didn't have a single fluctuation, as if I were discussing today's weather. The living room instantly fell into a dead silence. Immediately after, Lin Muin let out an extremely exaggerated cold laugh. 10 million? Gucci, are you crazy? She suddenly stood up and pointed right at my nose. You worked 4 jobs a day, waiting tables at a restaurant, moving bricks at a construction site, working yourself to death just to earn a few pennies a month. And now you open your mouth and demand 10 million. Do you think the Lin family's money blows in with the wind? Her eyes were practically overflowing with disgust. I knew it. Your saving me wasn't out of the goodness of your heart at all. You are a bloodsucker through and through. You deliberately pretended to be aloof and acted like you wanted to leave. just so you could open your lion's mouth to demand a massive payout, right? Ji Beong quickly grabbed Lin Muin's wrist and gently patted her back to soothe her. Muin, don't be angry. It's not worth ruining your health over. He turned his head to look at me, his brows slightly furrowed, putting on a heartbroken expression. Mr.Gu. I originally thought you were an honest man. I didn't expect you to be so greedy. 10 million really isn't much to the Lin family, but for a bottom feeder like you, suddenly getting so much money will easily make you lose your mind and go astray. I advise you to be a bit more down to earth. Ask for 100,000 or 80,000. Go back and do a little small business. Wouldn't that be nice? Every sentence of his speech seemed to be for my own good, but every word was cursing me for being insatiably greedy. A useless pile of mud that couldn't be plastered onto a wall. Looking at Ji Beong's hypocritical face, I suddenly felt that my past self was pitifully stupid to have actually lost to such a low-grade manipulator. I ignored Ji Beong's provocation and just looked at old Madam Lin. Old Madam Lin, is the life of the eldest miss of the Lin family really not even worth 10 million? Old Madam Lin's hand, which had been thumbing the prayer beads, paused. A trace of gloom flashed across her cloudy eyes. The Lin family was a top-tier wealthy family with immense prestige in Jingzhou. If word got out that the savior of the Lin family's heiress was dismissed with merely 100,000 or so, where would the Lin family put their face? Fine. 10 million. I'll give it to you. Old Madam Lin's voice was hoarse, carrying an unquestionable authority. Grandma. Lin Muin grew anxious and stomped her foot. How can you agree to such an unreasonable demand from him? A poor ghost like him. Who knows how he'll squander the money once he gets it? Old Madam Lin raised her hand, stopping Lin Muin's words. She stared at me, her tone ice-cold. Guche, I can give you the 10 million, but once you take this money, you must sign a non-disclosure agreement. From now on, you are not allowed to mention to anyone that you saved Muin. Furthermore, you are not allowed to appear before Muin or the Lin family under any excuse. Can you do that? I nodded without hesitation. Of course. I hope more than you do that our paths never cross again in this lifetime. Lin Muin was stunned. She seemed to not have expected me to agree so readily, without even a trace of reluctance. In her subconscious, I should have been the person wagging my tail and begging like a dog, shamelessly pestering her. Guche, stop putting on an act here. Do you think that just because you took the money, you can erase that stench of the bottom-tier sewer in your bones? Let me tell you, even if you have 10 million, in my eyes, you are still a despicable poor man. Ji Beong chimed in at the right moment, a trace of smugness in his tone. Mr.Gu. Although Muin's words are a bit blunt, they are also the truth. If you don't belong in a circle, don't force your way in. Once you take the money, hurry up and roll back to the mud pit where you belong. I watched them echo each other, my heart completely devoid of any ripples, and I even felt a bit like laughing. When will the money arrive? I directly ignored their mockery and looked at old Madam Lin. I will have the finance department prepare a check. The old lady said coldly, I want a cash transfer. I don't accept checks. My tone was firm. Checks carried the risk of being frozen, and I would not leave them with any leverage to manipulate me. Old Madam Lin took a deep look at me and finally nodded. Fine. Tomorrow afternoon. Bring your ID and come to the Lin group to sign the agreement. I turned and walked toward the main door without the slightest pause. See you tomorrow afternoon. Once the money is in my account, I will disappear immediately, wishing the eldest Miss Lin and young Master Ji a long and happy life together. The next afternoon, I appeared on time at the legal department of the Lin group. The terms on the agreement were extremely harsh, practically stripping me of all rights to even mention Lin Muin's name. I didn't even read it closely. I just directly signed my name on the last page and pressed my fingerprint. With a buzz, my phone vibrated. A bank text message notified me that 10 million had been transferred into my account. I looked at that long string of numbers and exhaled a long breath of stale air. From this moment on, I was completely free. I walked out of the Lin Group building, took a taxi back to that damp, dark basement rental room. This place held all my blood, sweat, and pain from my previous life. Piled in the corner was still the waste cardboard I had collected to buy nutritional supplements for Lin Muin. The cheap glass cup with a chipped base on the table was a freebie given by a street vendor after I pawned the only old watch my father left me to buy her cold medicine. In my past life, when Lin Muin returned to the Lin family, she took nothing with her except for this cup. At the time, with red eyes, she said this was the proof of our sharing joys and sorrows together. But later, I found out she only took the cup back to prove to Ji Beong what kind of inhuman torture she had suffered at the bottom of society, thereby exchanging it for Ji Beong's heartache. That cup was eventually smashed to pieces by Ji Beong right in front of me with effortless nonchalance. I picked up that glass cup, walked over to the trash can, and let go. With a crisp sound, the glass shattered all over the floor. Trash should stay in the trash can. Just then, the tottering iron door of the rental room was violently pushed open. Lin Muin stood at the doorway covering her nose, her face full of disgust. Ji Beong followed behind her, holding a pristine white handkerchief and pretentiously fanning the air. "Guche, you're actually hiding in such a disgusting place." Lin Muin's high heels stepped on the uneven cement floor, making a piercing sound. "This smell is even more nauseating than a sewer." Ji Beong frowned slightly, his tone full of superiority. "Muin, I told you not to come to a place like this. Staying in this kind of environment for even one more second will infect you with bacteria." I continued packing my few worn-out clothes, not even lifting my head. To what do I owe the honor of the eldest Miss Lin's visit? The transaction between us is already over. Lin Muin walked in, her gaze sweeping around the cramped room. When she saw those glass shards in the trash can, her expression changed drastically. "Guche, you smashed that cup." She pointed at the trash can, her voice so sharp it was somewhat piercing. I stuffed my clothes into the worn-out canvas bag and zipped it up. "It's just a broken cup. It was taking up space, so I threw it away." "What do you know?" Lin Muin instinctively wanted to retort but suddenly choked on her words. She glanced at Ji Beong beside her and forcibly swallowed the second half of her sentence. She couldn't show any lingering attachment to the past in front of Ji Beong. Ji Beong keenly noticed Lin Muin's emotional shift. He stepped forward, nudging the glass shards on the floor with his toe, a sneer hooking the corner of his mouth. "Mr.Gu. Muin is sentimental, even if it's trash. She feels it has commemorative value. How could you smash it so roughly? You really are too ignorant." He sighed, pulled a 100 yuan bill out of his wallet, and tossed it at my feet like giving alms to a beggar. "This kind of cheap street stall trash. 100 yuan can buy a whole basket of them. Consider it my compensation to you on Muin's behalf. Stop wearing that dead man's face." That flimsy banknote landed on my canvas bag. I stopped what I was doing, slowly stood up straight, and looked at Ji Beong with an icy gaze. "Young Master Ji, your money is too dirty. I find it nauseating." Ji Beong's face darkened instantly. "Guche, don't reject a gift when it's given to you. Do you think that just because you got 10 million, you can stand on equal footing with me? In my eyes, you are still a stink bug that only knows how to wag its tail and beg for pity." Lin Muin immediately stepped in front of Ji Beong to protect him, glaring at me angrily. "Guche, are you crazy? Beong kindly gave you money, and you actually dare to curse him. Pick up the money immediately and apologize to Beong." Her natural display of favoritism was exactly the same as in my previous life. I let out a cold laugh, lifted my foot, and stepped directly onto that 100 yuan bill, grinding it hard. "Apologize? Does he deserve it? Lin Muin, do you really think the whole world revolves around you? I used to pamper you because I was blind. Now, in my eyes, you are worse than the glass shards in this trash can." Lin Muin's eyes instantly widened. Her face was full of disbelief. She seemed unable to accept that the Guche who used to be completely obedient to her actually dared to speak to her in this tone. You actually dare to speak to me like this?" She was trembling with anger and raised her hand to slap me. I grabbed her wrist, my grip so strong it made her cry out in pain. "Eldest Miss Lin, put away your condescending face." I forcefully threw off her hand. "Take your good dog and get out of my house. Otherwise, I don't mind calling the police and suing you for trespassing." Ji Beong immediately rushed forward to support Lin Muin, glaring at me viciously. Guche, just you wait. In Jingzhou, if you offend me, Ji Beong, I have 100 ways to make you wish you were dead. I picked up my canvas bag, slung it over my shoulder, and fearlessly met his gaze. I'll be waiting any time. I'm just afraid you don't have the ability. I strode out of the rental room, leaving the two of them behind. Guche, how did you become so mean now? You're simply unreasonable. Lin Muin's exasperated voice rang out behind me. I didn't even turn my head. After leaving the rental room, I went straight to an express hotel near the airport. My flight was booked for 6 days later. During this time, I just needed to wait quietly. However, the Lin family obviously didn't intend to let me leave so easily. On the evening of the 3rd day, my door was knocked on roughly. Outside stood 2 bodyguards in black suits, holding a set of cheap suits. Mr.Gu. The old madam has ordered that you must attend the Lin family's appreciation banquet tonight. The bodyguard's tone was tough, leaving absolutely no room for negotiation. I frowned. The agreement is already signed, and I've taken the money. I have no obligation to attend any appreciation banquet. The bodyguard sneered. The old madam said, if you don't go, she has plenty of ways to bankrupt the construction company you used to work for. I heard the foreman there used to take good care of you. My eyes turned cold. Old Madam Lin was using innocent people to threaten me. In my past life, that foreman had indeed lent me a few hundred yuan when I was at my most difficult. Although I was cold-blooded, I wouldn't go so far as to implicate a benefactor. Fine, I'll go. I took the suit and changed into it right in front of them. The suit was clearly a size too small, and the fabric was coarse. Wearing it made me look like a comical clown. The Lin family was doing this on purpose, to make me look like a fool at the banquet in order to highlight Ji Beong's nobility. At 8 p.m., I was half escorted by the bodyguards to Jingzhou's most luxurious hotel banquet hall. Inside the magnificent hall, the guests were dressed to the nines, exchanging toasts. The moment I stepped in, I immediately drew strange looks from the people around me. Who is that person, dressed so shabbily? How did he sneak in? I heard he's the one who saved the eldest miss of the Lin family. What a toad lusting after swan meat. He doesn't even look at what he is. Exactly, compared to young Master Ji. The difference is simply like heaven and earth. These harsh discussions drilled into my ears without reservation. I walked expressionlessly to a sofa in the corner and sat down, picking up a glass of plain water. Not long after, a commotion arose in the crowd. Lin Muin, linking arms with Ji Beong, walked out like stars clustered around the moon. Lin Muin was wearing an ice-blue haute couture evening gown, breathtakingly beautiful. Ji Beong was wearing a well-tailored white tailcoat, a priceless sapphire brooch pinned to his chest. Standing together, they really did look like a perfect couple. Old Madam Lin stood on the stage, her face full of smiles as she introduced them to the guests. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend my granddaughter Muin's appreciation banquet. Muin was lost out there for many days, and it was all thanks to the full assistance of the Ji family's young Master Beong that she was able to return safely. This child Beong is loyal and righteous. Our Lin family is endlessly grateful. Sitting in the corner, listening to old Madam Lin's words that inverted black and white, I almost burst out laughing. It was clearly me who risked half my life to save Lin Muin from the kidnappers. But coming from old Madam Lin's mouth, all the credit belonged to Ji Beong. As for me, the real savior, I wasn't even worthy of having my name mentioned. Right at that moment, Ji Beong, holding 2 glasses of red wine, walked straight toward me. He wore a hypocritical smile on his face. His voice was neither too loud nor too soft, just enough for the people around to hear. Mr.Gu. Sitting here all alone must be so boring. Come, let me toast you. He offered one of the glasses of red wine to me. I didn't take it. I don't drink. A trace of viciousness flashed in the depths of Ji Beong's eyes, but on the surface, he still put on an innocent look. Mr.Gu. Are you not giving me face? Are you still angry with me about what happened in the rental room the other day? I know you're jealous that Muin chose me, but when it comes to feelings, you can't force them. He deliberately raised his voice a few notches. The surrounding guests all stopped their conversations and looked over. What kind of thing are you to be worthy of my jealousy? I looked at him coldly. Ji Beong suddenly took a step forward, his foot violently tripping over nothing. The red wine glass in his hand tipped straight toward his own chest. Ji Beong let out an exaggerated, miserable cry and fell backward onto the floor. The dark red liquid instantly stained his expensive white shirt. The entire hall went into an uproar. Lin Muin pushed through the crowd like a madwoman and rushed over. Beong, are you okay? She heartbreakingly helped Ji Beong up, frantically using tissues to wipe him. Ji Beong's eyes were red, his voice trembling, looking for all the world as if he had suffered a massive grievance. Muin, I'm fine. Mr.G, you probably was just in a bad mood. He didn't push me on purpose. This manipulative speech of his instantly ignited Lin Muin's fury. Lin Muin whipped her head around, her eyes shooting fire as she glared at me. She rushed in front of me in her high heels and raised her hand to slap me. I tilted my head slightly, easily dodging her slap. Gucci, you despicable poor ghost. Lin Muin pointed at me furiously, her voice so sharp it practically pierced the eardrums. Beong kindly toasted you, and you actually dared to push him. Kneel down and apologize to Beong right now. Otherwise, I will absolutely not let you off today. The surrounding guests also chimed in to condemn me. What an uneducated barbarian. How could the Lin family invite this kind of bottom-tier societal trash to a banquet? Hurry up and kneel down to apologize. Stop polluting everyone's eyes. I stood where I was, looking coldly at this group of self-proclaimed noble upper-class people. What if I say I won't apologize? Won't apologize? Gucci, have you forgotten what kind of thing you are? Lin Muin's eyes were filled with absolute disgust, as if looking at a pile of nauseating excrement. Her chest heaved violently, and the finger pointing at me was trembling. Do you think that just because you got that 10 million, you can swagger around in this circle? Let me tell you, here, crushing you to death is easier than crushing an ant. Ji Beong leaned against Lin Muin's embrace, continuing to display his nauseating acting skills. He gently tugged at the hem of Lin Muin's dress, his voice so weak, as if he would faint at any moment. Muin, let it go. Mr.G, you probably did this kind of extreme act because of his poor background and inferiority complex. I'll just go change my clothes. Let's not ruin everyone's mood because of me. The more he said this, the more Lin Muin felt he had suffered a massive injustice, and the deeper her hatred for me grew. No, today he must kneel down, kowtow, and apologize to you. At this time, old Madame Lin walked over, surrounded by bodyguards. Her face was ashen, and the purple sandalwood prayer beads in her hand were being squeezed so hard they creaked. Gucci, the Lin family is giving you face. Don't refuse it. The old lady's voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable oppressive force. If you don't kneel down and kowtow today to settle this matter, I can have the bank freeze your 10 million at any time. Not only that, I will make it impossible for you to survive in Jingzhou or even the entire country. As the old lady's words fell, over a dozen burly bodyguards in black quickly surrounded me, firmly trapping me in the corner. The surrounding guests backed away, terrified of getting blood on themselves, but their eyes were filled with the excitement of watching a good show. The pressure reached its peak at this moment. Everyone thought that a bottom-tier poor wretch like me would have no choice but to humiliatingly kneel down and beg for mercy in the face of the Lin family's power. I looked at Lin Muin's smug face, at the unconcealed viciousness in Ji Beong's eyes, and at old Madame Lin's high and mighty posture. Suddenly, I laughed. My laughter sounded exceptionally abrupt in this dead-silent banquet hall. What are you laughing at? Are you crazy? Lin Muin frowned, my laughter giving her the creeps. I reeled in my smile and slowly pulled my phone out of my pocket. I'm laughing at you, group of self-proclaimed smart upper-class people who are actually being strung along by a low-grade actor. As I spoke, I tapped on an app on my phone. This was a bit of hacking skill I had taught myself in my past life to prevent the foreman from withholding my wages. I was bored in the corner just now, so I conveniently hacked into this hotel's surveillance system. Lin Muin, Open your eyes wide and see clearly exactly who is acting shamelessly. I pressed the enter key. The massive LED screen right in the center of the banquet hall suddenly flickered. Immediately after, the screen, which had been playing the Lin family's corporate promo, switched to a high-definition surveillance video. The video clearly displayed everything that had just happened. Ji Beong walked toward me with the wine glasses. As he approached, I even took half a step back, my hands remaining in my pockets the entire time. I didn't touch him at all. It was Ji Beong who deliberately tripped his left foot over his right foot, and then accurately splashed the entire glass of red wine onto his own chest. Finally, he went with the momentum and fell backward, completing that clumsy dive. The entire process was displayed flawlessly and completely from all angles in front of everyone. Even the sinister smile in the corner of his mouth before he fell was magnified with crystal clarity. The entire hall was dead silent. Pin drop could be heard. Everyone's gaze remained stiffly glued to the large screen. Their facial expressions were magnificent and varied. The guests who had just been clamoring for me to kneel down now looked as if their necks were collectively strangled. They couldn't utter a single word. I put my phone back into my pocket, crossed my arms, and looked at the deathly pale Ji Beong with a half-smile. How dare you scheme against me? Ji Beong's innocent face changed in an instant. His voice was as sharp as a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He pushed Lin Muin away, pointed at the screen, and yelled, "This video is fake. You made it yourself." The video on the screen was playing on a loop. Every replay was like a resounding slap to Ji Beong's face. The guests began to whisper among themselves. Their sympathy for Beong had now turned into hatred and mockery. So, he fell down all by himself. What a shame that his acting isn't even worthy of an Oscar. To think the heir of such a prominent family, the son of the Ji family, would stoop to such a despicable act just to frame an ordinary man. This is truly shameful. The Lin family really made a mistake this time by choosing such a fraud. These words pierced Lin Muin's ears like needles. Her face turned pale, and her body began to tremble. She felt thoroughly humiliated. But her first reaction was still not to apologize to me. "Gucci, how could you be so cunning as to secretly record a video?" Lin Muin suddenly turned around and glared at me fiercely. "You just want to ruin Beong's reputation, don't you? You lowly people. Your way of thinking is so despicable." Seeing her stubborn and foolish state, I could only laugh. "Lin Muin, if you don't want to use your brain, then donate it to someone in need." I picked up a microphone from a nearby table, and my voice echoed through the speakers across the entire hall. He provoked me first. He spilled the wine on himself. I merely showed the truth. So, how am I the one in the wrong here? I scanned everyone present with my eyes. Is this your so-called high society, where day is called night and wrong is proven right? Old Madame Lin trembled with anger. Pointing at me, she yelled, "This is an outrage. Absolute outrage. Guards, physically throw this insolent man out of here." A dozen bodyguards stepped forward once again. I stood there without the slightest fear, looking at old Madame Lin with cold eyes. "There is no need to throw me out. I will leave on my own. I have already received my 10 million from the Lin family. From now on, Gucci will have absolutely nothing to do with Lin Muin or the Lin family. I don't want to stay in your disgusting circle for even one more day." I stood my ground without the slightest fear, looking at old Madame Lin with cold eyes. I threw the microphone heavily onto the table, letting out an ear-piercing screech. I turned around and strode toward the main doors of the banquet hall. Wherever I passed, the bodyguards were deterred by my imposing aura, and actually parted involuntarily to make way. Lin Muin watched my resolute retreating back, and her heart suddenly and inexplicably felt empty, as if something that originally belonged to her was completely slipping out of her control. She instinctively took a step forward to chase me, but her pride forced her to halt her steps. "Gucci!" Lin Muin screamed hoarsely from behind. I didn't turn my head, not even pausing my steps for a second. I pushed open the heavy doors of the banquet hall, completely shutting that foul-smelling world behind me. The night breeze blew over, bringing a trace of chill, but it made me feel an unprecedented sense of clarity and freedom. Lin Muin irritably swept all the documents on her desk onto the floor. A month had passed since that farcical appreciation banquet. During this month, Lin Muin felt her life was simply a mess. Every morning when she woke up, there was no longer stomach-nourishing porridge at the perfect temperature brought to her bedside. In the walk-in closet, she could never find the right accessories to match her expensive haute couture dresses, because Gucci used to organize all of these for her. When her stomach aches flared up, causing her to roll around in bed in pain, she would call Ji Beong, but that man would only perfunctorily say, "Drink more hot water. I'm still in a meeting." But in the past, Gucci would run across half the city in the pouring rain just to buy her favorite hot porridge. Lin Muin rubbed her throbbing temples, an inexplicable sense of irritability welling up in her heart. She didn't want to admit that she had grown accustomed to Gucci waiting on her. She only treated it as this cheap nanny Gucci suddenly quitting, leaving her unable to adapt for the time being. What upset her even more was that Ji Beong's true colors were starting to gradually reveal themselves. Several times, she even smelled the pungent scent of cheap perfume on Ji Beong's suit jacket. When she questioned him, Ji Beong would always impatiently push her away and say she was being unreasonable. "Eldest Mississippi, we found him." The assistant tremblingly pushed open the door and handed over a file. "Gucci. He went to Haicheng, and he used that 10 million to register a technology company, which is developing quite well right now." Lin Muin snatched the file and stared fixedly at the photo of Gucci wearing a suit, looking high-spirited and vigorous. The Gucci in the photo had a sharp gaze and a composed temperament. There was not a trace of his former lowly, obsequious, poverty-stricken look. A strong sense of losing control and extreme jealousy instantly gripped Lin Muin's heart. What right does he have to live so well, taking our Lin family's money to live it up? Lin Muin said through gritted teeth. "Book me a flight to Haicheng immediately. I'm gonna see for myself what exactly he's up to." The next afternoon, Lin Muin stepped out of her 10 centimeters high heels and aggressively appeared downstairs at my company. She still carried that high and mighty attitude of a wealthy heiress, completely ignoring the receptionist's attempts to stop her, and barged into my office. I was sitting behind the large desk, looking at the project reports in my hands, hearing the commotion. I didn't even lift an eyelid. "Gucci, you've gotten bold, actually daring to open a company behind my back." Lin Muin walked up to the desk and slammed both hands heavily onto the surface. I unhurriedly closed the report, looked up, and met her with a cold gaze. "Eldest Miss Lin, trespassing into someone else's office incurs legal liability. Gucci, have you had enough of this tantrum? Come back with me, and I can forgive your previous rudeness." "Forgive me, Lin Muin. Do you have some sort of severe cognitive impairment?" I leaned back into my ergonomic boss's chair, interlacing my fingers in front of me, looking at her as if looking at a mental patient. Lin Muin was choked by my words, her face turning flush red. She stared at me, seemingly trying to find a trace of pretense on my face. But she was disappointed. My eyes held nothing but icy mockery, without a shred of the infatuation she was so familiar with. "Stop acting dumb here." Lin Muin raised her voice, attempting to conceal her inner panic. "You deliberately ran to Haicheng to start a company. Isn't it just to get my attention? Do you think that just because you put on a suit, you can cover up the stench of poverty in your bones? Let me tell you, you will forever be nothing but a bottom-tier piece of trash who can only survive on the Lin family's charity." I quietly listened to her hysterical clamoring, a cruel smirk hooking the corner of my lips. In my previous life, she had also used this exact high and mighty tone to belittle me into the dust. I stood up, slowly walked around the desk, and approached her. The immense height advantage and the aura of someone used to being in power forced Lin Muin to instinctively take a step back. "Lin Muin, do you feel that your first choice will always be Ji Beong?" I stared into her eyes, returning the exact words she had said to me by the cliff in my previous life, word for word. "And a despicable poor man like me is only fit to be your backup to be called upon at will." Lin Muin was struck as if by lightning, her entire body freezing in place. She widened her eyes, looking at me in utter terror. She had only thought of those words in the darkest corners of her heart, and had never mentioned them to anyone. She couldn't understand how I could so precisely pierce through the dirtiest secret hidden deep within her heart. You, how could you? Her lips trembled, unable to form a single complete sentence. I didn't give her a chance to catch her breath, continuing to stab at her heart with every word. Do you think you were some kind of noble princess? You are nothing but an ungrateful, selfish, white-eyed wolf. You enjoyed everything I sacrificed for you, yet despised my origins. You admire Ji Bayang's power and influence, yet turn a blind eye to his true character. The current you, in my eyes, is worse than a stray dog on the street. Lin Muin's psychological defenses completely collapsed. She covered her ears and shook her head frantically. No, it's not like that. You're speaking nonsense. I couldn't be bothered to look at her ugly display anymore and pressed the intercom on my desk. Security, come up here and throw this crazy woman in my office out. In less than half a minute, 2 burly security guards rushed in and grabbed Lin Muin's arms from left and right. Let go of me. Do you know who I am? I am the eldest miss of the Lin family. Lin Muin struggled desperately, her exquisite makeup becoming distorted with anger and fear. I sat back down in my chair and reopened the report. Throw her out and don't let this kind of garbage into my company ever again. Lin Muin fled wretchedly back to Jingzhou, only to be met with a shocking tragedy that was enough to destroy the Lin family. Ji Bayang was in trouble. Not only was he keeping multiple mistresses outside, but he was also suspected of using several core projects of the Lin family to conduct massive money laundering and economic fraud. After the matter was exposed, the police arrested Ji Bayang right in the middle of a debauched party at an underground casino. As soon as the news broke, the Jingzhou business world was shaken. The Lin Group stock plunged to the daily limit within 10 minutes of market opening, evaporating billions in market value. Old Madame Lin, overwhelmed by acute anxiety, suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and was rushed into the ICU, remaining unconscious to this day. Lin Muin completely panicked, running to the detention center to confront Ji Bayang. Separated by the iron bars, Ji Bayang no longer had his former disguise of gentle elegance. His face was twisted, his gaze as vicious as a venomous snake. Ji Bayang spat viciously, and Lin Muin cried while banging on the glass. Ji Bayang suddenly burst into maniacal laughter, laughing until tears came to his eyes. Did you really think I had eyes for a used piece of trash like you? If it weren't for the Lin family's resources, did you think I would lower myself to coax a stupid fool like you who threw herself at me? Every single word was like a sharp knife, viciously stabbing into Lin Muin's heart. She slumped to the floor, feeling her entire world collapse. It wasn't until this moment that she finally saw Ji Bayang's true colors. In the abyss of despair, Lin Muin frantically thought of me. She remembered the Guche who worked 4 jobs a day just to buy her a small piece of cake. She remembered the Guche who, when she was sick, stayed by her bedside all night, not daring to close his eyes for even a moment. Intense remorse gnawed at her internal organs like a venomous snake. It was late autumn in Haicheng, raining heavily. I had just finished an important business negotiation and was sitting in the back seat of my Maybach, preparing to head back to the hotel. The car had just driven out of the underground garage when the driver suddenly slammed on the brakes. Mr.Gu. There's someone kneeling in the rain ahead, blocking the road. I rolled down the window and looked out coldly. In the heavy rain, Lin Muin was soaked to the bone, kneeling in front of the car like a drowned rat. Her originally exquisite hair was plastered tightly to her face, and her dress was covered in mud and water. Seeing the window roll down, she stumbled and crawled to the door, tightly clutching the edge of the window. Guche, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please, just give me one more chance. Okay, give you a chance, so you can push me off the cliff one more time. I held up a large black umbrella with a straight handle and pushed open the car door, looking down from above at Lin Muin in the muddy water. Ice-cold raindrops dripped down the ribs of the umbrella and smashed onto her face. Lin Muin abruptly looked up, staring at me in utter terror. Of course, she didn't know about my rebirth. She only felt that my words were like a rusty iron saw, slowly sawing open her soul, leaving her with nowhere to hide. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Her teeth chattered as she tried to hide the extreme terror in her heart. I admired her wretchedness and despair in this moment. There was not a shred of pity in my heart, only the thrill of revenge. It doesn't matter if you don't understand. You only need to know that the current you, in my eyes, is worse than a puddle of mud. Lin Nguyen broke down and sobbed loudly. She lunged forward regardless of everything, desperately hugging my legs. The muddy water stained my tailored suit pants. Gucci, I really regret it. Ji Beong is an animal. He lied to me and ruined the Lin family. Grandma is still in the hospital being resuscitated and the Lin family is about to go bankrupt. Gucci, I only have you now. She tilted her face up, tears mixing with the rain, trying to use her pitiful appearance to evoke even a sliver of old feelings from me. Gucci, I'm pregnant. It's Ji Beong's. But I'll go get an abortion tomorrow. As long as you are willing to take me back, I will listen to whatever you say from now on. I can be a cow or a horse for you. Listening to her completely bottomless remarks, I only felt a wave of nausea. In my previous life, she had also used this child as an excuse to lure me to the edge of the cliff and personally push me down. My eyes turned cold. I lifted my leg and mercilessly kicked her away. Lin Nguyen let out a miserable scream, falling heavily into a muddy puddle, splashing up a spray of filthy water. Lin Nguyen, you don't even have the right to make me hate you anymore. I looked down at her from above, my tone as cold as 10,000-year-old ice. The way you are wagging your tail and begging for pity now truly disgusts me to the core. Stop polluting my eyes. Get lost. I turned around, got into the car, and didn't spare her another glance. Drive, I instructed the driver coldly. On the other end of the phone, Asen's voice was as efficient and calm as ever. The source of the information is absolutely reliable. The Lin family is hitting walls everywhere and no domestic bank dares to give them loans anymore. They are going through an underground broker to contact an overseas black money capital firm. They want to use the old estate as collateral in exchange for a life-saving sum. Black money capital. What is the market valuation of that old estate? In normal times, at least 500 million. But right now, the Lin family desperately needs money, and the other party is a ruthless black money capital firm that eats people without spitting out the bones. I estimate they will give a loan limit of 200 million at the absolute most. And the interest will definitely be astronomical. 200 million. As if they deserve it. I sneered. A senior listened to me. Use all our connections to immediately find out which executive of the black money capital the Lin family is in contact with, as well as the specific time and location of their negotiation. I am going to intercept it. 3 days later, the Lin family's deal with the black money capital was intercepted by my company, Starfall Technologies. Through a series of strategic maneuvers, I not only blocked their financing channel but also acquired the Lin family's old estate at a bargain price through a proxy. The once mighty Lin family was left with nothing but debts and a tarnished name. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse office in Haicheng, looking down at the city lights. My phone buzzed. It was a message from an anonymous source. * Old Madam Lin passed away this morning. The Lin family has declared bankruptcy. Lin Nguyen has disappeared. * I put down the phone, my heart as calm as still water. In my previous life, they took everything from me. My dignity, my love, my life. In this life, I took back what was mine and then some. A soft knock came at the door. My assistant entered with a smile. Mr.Gu. The acquisition of the G family's logistics division is complete. We now own 35% of the market share in Jingzhou. I nodded, a faint smile playing on my lips. Good. And the venture capital fund. Fully operational. We've already invested in 3 promising AI startups. The projected returns are. Spare me the details. I waved my hand. Just make sure the money keeps growing. Yes. Mr.Gu. She left, closing the door behind her. I turned back to the window. The city of Haicheng spread out before me like a glittering carpet. From a basement-dwelling nobody to the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar empire. All within the span of a few months. My phone buzzed again. A photo this time. Lin Nguyen, pale and thin, working at a street-side noodle stall in a third-tier city. She looked nothing like the haughty heiress she once was. Beside her stood a man in a worn-out apron, the foreman from my past life, the one who had lent me money when I was down on my luck. He was helping her serve bowls of noodles to customers. I stared at the photo for a long time. In the end, she had fallen even lower than the people she once despised. And the foreman, the man I had been willing to take a fall for, had found a way to live with dignity, even if it was a humble one. Karma, it seemed, had a delicious sense of irony. I deleted the photo and poured myself a glass of premium whiskey. The amber liquid caught the light, warm and inviting. I had 10 million once. Now I had billions. But the real victory wasn't the money. It was the freedom, the absolute, unshakable knowledge that I would never again be at the mercy of anyone's cruelty. My phone rang. It was Senator Mr.Gu. We've confirmed the Lin family's remaining assets. There's nothing left. They're finished. Good. I took a sip of my whiskey, the smooth burn traveling down my throat. Make sure they stay finished. I don't want any loose ends. Understood. I hung up and set the phone down on the marble desk. Through the window, the sun was setting over Haicheng, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I picked up a small frame from my desk, a photo of myself from my previous life, standing in front of that damp basement, exhausted but smiling. I had come so far from that broken, lovesick fool. Gucci, I whispered to my reflection in the glass. You finally made it, and this time, there was no cliff, no betrayal, no regret, only the open road ahead, and a future entirely of my own making.